Imagine, if you will, stepping into a world where whispers of power and intrigue echo through marble halls, where every breath is a calculated move in a game of survival and supremacy. Tonight we delve into the enigmatic life of an Ottoman harem concubine, a life often shrouded in myth and fantasy, yet teeming with a complexity that is both breathtaking and heartrending. Before you settle in, if this journey captivates your imagination, show your appreciation with a like, and perhaps consider subscribing to this channel. And do share in the comments below, where in the world are you joining us from? What time is it there? It's always thrilling to know who's tuning in from across the globe. Now, as the lights dim and the gentle hum of a fan whispers in the background, let's embark on this intimate exploration together. Imagine you've just opened your eyes in the top-copy palace harem. You are enveloped in an opulence that seems almost divine, silk satin and the delicate fragrance of rosewater. But this paradise has its thorns. You're not alone. You are one among 200 concubines, each a potential rival in a relentless competition for favor, influence, and sometimes mere survival. You awaken on a divan, its cushions so plush and golden one might think they were woven by celestial beings. Yet this isn't luxury, it's pressure, velvet pressure that never lets you forget your place. A bell chimes not for prayer, but for preparation. You have a mere 10 minutes to transform your face into a canvas of natural flawlessness, a feat akin to painting with the finesse of a Renaissance master. There's rose oil to anoint your skin, crushed pearls to dust your cheeks, and kohl to line your eyes, each stroke a silent vow of beauty and deceit. Privacy, a foreign concept here. You share your living space with women who might adore you or despise you in a dance of alliances and rivalries that could make or break your existence. This is not just a harem, it's a microcosm of power politics and profound human drama, where every day is a delicate balance between splendor and survival. Here in the labyrinthine corridors of the Ottoman imperial harem, every step echoes with the whispers of ambition and the silent cries of despair. Relationships are as intricate as the patterns on the silken gowns, where sisters might plot your downfall, with the cunning of corporate executives, and alliances are forged over the sweet red seeds of a pomegranate. Betrayals lurk in every corner, perhaps hidden in the misplaced hairpin that could unravel your carefully laid plans. And the air. Oh, the air is thick with a scent that could only be described as a blend of jasmine fog, anxiety, the burn of incense, and the desperate hope of catching the Sultan's fleeting gaze. If ever there were a fragrance named ambition and claustrophobia, this would be its essence, bottled and sold by Chanel. As dawn breaks, you rise, smoothing the fine embroidery of your capan, laundered by a young servant whose eyes already hold a flicker of disdain. You prepare for the morning assembly, where senior eunuchs with their sharp, discerning eyes decide which of you will have the honor or the horror of being summoned to the Sultan's chambers. It's less a pageant and more a parade of existential dread, where the prize is not freedom, but a fleeting moment of power, a chance to wield influence from behind the veil. No escape is possible here. Every moment, every breath is a calculated move in a game where the rules are whispered, not written. Your smile is a strategy, your laughter a lure, and your bed, though soft, holds you more captive than any chains could. This is your life in the harem, where power plays begin with your first waking breath. And now the day takes you to the hammam, the steam-filled sanctuary where the politics of the palace are conducted in the nude. You might think it's merely for cleanliness, and in part you'd be correct. But within these steamy walls, alliances are not just formed, they are cemented with the sweat of rivalry. Here, concubines glide in like ethereal spirits draped in silk, each movement a calculated display of grace and power. You join them, your heart pounding beneath the pretense of calm, as you navigate this world where even the most intimate of moments are steeped in the politics of survival. The senior women, regale and intimidating, move through the marble chamber like swans, their presence a reminder of the hierarchy that governs every aspect of this secluded world. Attendants attend to you with what feels like affection, yet the loofah in their hands might as well be a weapon, each scrub a silent declaration of dominance. Your skin glows from their ministrations, but your spirit shrinks under the weight of their unspoken judgments. As you navigate the labyrinthine corridors of your past life, you adapt with remarkable speed. The bathhouse transcends mere bathing. It morphs into a clandestine chamber of surveillance, where eyes linger not with overt scrutiny, but with a subtle, pervasive watchfulness. Who sits with whom? Whose whispers carry the weight of secrets? Who laughs too loudly, too eagerly at the niece of the valid sultan's jest in this delicate dance of power? Silence is your shield. Speaking too soon here is akin to overturning the chessboard at the outset of a game. The veterans either dismiss your presence or silently plot your correction, often through the reassigning of chores or the cold shoulder of social exile. Yet the bathhouse unveils the soft underbelly of the harem's power. Here, amidst the steam and the murmur of water, you catch whispers of women who ascended not merely by captivating the sultan's gaze, but through alliances with the right bath attendant, the sage concubine, or by spinning the perfect tale at the opportune moment. Secrets like soap suds slip out in this place, revealing who is favored, who has fallen from grace, and who might have penned a scandalous love note. All this while, someone scrubs your elbows with a fervor that borders on aggression. You emerge from the hammam, your skin a rosy hue polished to a sheen, yet your mind is clouded, a swirl of jasmine steam in the intricate politics of closeness. If you once envisioned the harem as a realm of silk cushions and distant flute melodies, think again. It's less a serene spa, more a slow-motion chess game where the pieces are not only beautiful but also bored and perilously well-informed. And then there are the eunuchs, particularly the black eunuchs, high-ranking castrated guards, the silent sentinels who report directly to the valid sultan. They hold the keys to who? The corridors of the harem are a labyrinth of whispered secrets and unseen power plays, where individuals are summoned or shunned with the mere flick of a glance. Here smiles are scarce, for the gravity of presence alone can signal the end of a career. You realize quickly that to merely survive, let alone flourish, you must not pander to the sultan. Instead, your alliances must be with the eunuchs, the silent movers of this palace. Gifts are suspicious, flirting is unthinkable, wildly inappropriate. The art lies in being respectful, predictable, and above all, inoffensively useful. You demand nothing you are ever ready when called upon, and you steer clear of the treacherous waters of gossip. The tales of those who vanished into the laundry chamber after a mere whisper of their name serve as a chilling reminder. Amidst this, relationships among the concubines are fraught with complexity. There's a tentative friend from Silesia feigning interest in embroidery while her eyes betray a plot of calculated ruthlessness. And there's an unspoken enemy, the reason for her animosity lost in the murky waters of a too long stare during lute practice. A blink was your only response, and silence has been the language between you ever since. Everything here is nuanced. Compliments are edged with danger. Smiles are heavy with implication. How you begin to yearn for the emotional transparency of your old village goat. Yet you learn to decipher the silence, to position yourself just close enough to power without seeming ambitious. You express gratitude to a eunuch for a mere letter, as if it were a sacred text bestowed upon you. Survival in this place isn't about beauty or talent. It's about grasping the subtle shifts of power that move like currents through glances, through the void of silence, through the sudden absence of a name once spoken with familiarity. At first glance, your role as a concubine might seem simple, yet beneath the surface, it's a dance of shadows and whispers. Ah, the art of appearing effortlessly graceful. It sounds deceptively simple, doesn't it? Glide through the palace corridors with an ethereal elegance, a smile as polished as the marble floors beneath your silk slippers. But beneath this serene exterior lies a world of complexity and intrigue where you must master the most ancient of imperial skills, the art of absorbing everything while projecting an image of blissful ignorance. You are not just a figure of beauty, you are a sponge soaking up every detail with an almost supernatural absorption. Bejeweled and perfumed, you sit embroidering tulips with a frequency that raises eyebrows, all while your mind is a whirlwind of observation. Who sits where, who casts the side eye at whom, and who has received an extra apricot at breakfast. In this palace, these are not mere trivialities. They are the subtle signs of power shifts, the silent whispers of coup. Your daily regimen now brims with lessons that blend the charm of finishing school with the cunning of political maneuvering. You're schooled in music, literature, poetry, Islamic law, Ottoman etiquette, and if fortune smiles upon you, how to keep your composure during those dizzying dance sessions. The goal is not just to be beautiful, but to be enchantingly intelligent, like a peacock that can recite poetry without ruffling feathers. But the true learning occurs in the spaces between. You watch the time it takes for the valet sultan's tray to be whisked away, noting who performs this seemingly mundane task. You observe which eunuch appears just before the storm clouds of bad news gather. You memorize who is missing from the daily tableau, never daring to inquire why. Your role is to listen, to absorb, not to speak unless prompted by someone significantly your senior. And even then, your words must be few, insightful, and subtly flattering, wrapped in a humble bow. There you sit, hands delicately folded over your embroidery, perhaps a dove, or perhaps something less recognizable, and you are cataloging every interaction. Alliances, slights, opportunities, names, especially names. You begin to decode the unspoken hierarchy: who is favored, who is merely tolerated, and who might be just 3 skipped meals away from a significant change in fortune. Kitchen duty. You now find yourself in a curious limbo, no longer just a fresh face in the crowd, but not yet a staple of the surroundings. Worry not, for this limbo is far more advantageous than it might seem. In the delicate dance of the harem, appearing harmless is a perilous art, one you're mastering with surprising finesse. There are 2 fears that haunt these gilded halls: the dread of fading into obscurity and the terror of becoming too conspicuous. Today you find yourself tangoing with the latter, a dangerous flirtation indeed. It starts with an innocent gesture. A new robe is placed in your hands, not the familiar understated gray-blue cotton you've donned for weeks, but something audacious. It's silk, a vibrant rose color adorned with intricate golden vines. You stare at it as if it has just whispered a secret proposal. From the Sultan's steward, the servant girl murmurs, her eyes cast down. This could signify a myriad of intentions. Perhaps you're being celebrated or tested. Or could this be a robe destined for another, and you're unwittingly stepping into a plot thick with intrigue, your sleeves whispering secrets with every movement? You don the robe and it fits with a suspicious perfection. As you traverse the harem's quarters, the other women take note, not with overt gestures that would be too gauche, but with carefully timed pauses in conversation. Arched eyebrows and one look so piercing it could sever threads. At the morning recitation, you find your posture has subtly improved. You're seated a tad closer to the front, not among the Sultan's favored, yet distinctly above the forgettable. Later, as the afternoon sun dips, a eunuch delivers a solitary pink rose to your quarters. Just one, with no accompanying message, no explanation. You hold it as if it might bloom into a declaration or explode into a warning. In the coded language of the palace, this rose could herald many things. Has the Sultan truly noticed you? Or does someone wish to make it appear so? Or perhaps you are merely a pawn in a game you have only just begun to comprehend. In the harem, whispers weave through the air like threads of silk, stitching together the deadliest game of telephone in Ottoman history. Here, silence is your safest move. You press the rose between the pages of your prayer book, a secret kept even from your shadow, for she gossips and shadows have ears. That night, you retire to your chamber, swathed in rose silk, feeling as though you are the very heart pinned within a Valentine's Day card, both cherished and vulnerable. Rising too quickly is suspect. To stand out is to invite danger. Yet to vanish from sight is a fate worse than death. Thus you maintain your poise, sipping your sherbet, contemplating the enigmatic dance between robe and rose. This combination could mean everything or nothing at all. Here in this place, both possibilities are equally chilling. Dinner in the harem is no ordinary meal. It's a grand performance, a spectacle of competitive, highly seasoned theater where every participant is draped in silk, feigning disinterest, while their eyes dart, measuring their adversaries over each spoonful of stewed lamb. As you enter the grand dining chamber, you select your seat with care, not too close to the center, for you have not yet earned such prominence, nor too far in the shadows, for you are not yet invisible. The seating is a fluid map of status, ever changing. One evening you might find yourself beside the lute player, privy to all the secrets. The next to a woman who hasn't uttered a word since 1572. The food arrives borne by silent eunuchs, a parade of saffron rice pomegranate studded, pilaf grape leaves, and sweet sherbets served in crystal glasses. Each dish is delicate, each flavor a whisper, yet every bite carries the weight of emotional warfare. No one hurries, for haste is vulgar. You eat slowly, gracefully, as if sustenance comes not from food, but from the poetry and intrigue that swirl around you. Conversations are soft, barely a murmur. Laughter, if it comes, is carefully measured, a signal that one is bold enough to be cheerful amidst vipers. You nod, smile just enough, always mindful to keep your own counsel. Under no circumstance dare you request additional bread. Hunger is seen as a vulnerability, as is gluttony. Remember, someone might be watching, their eyes sharp, for the moment you dare to take 2 figs. Your gaze inadvertently locks with another concubine across the vast table. Is she new to this opulent game, or an old player reborn with a more skilled tailor? Her earrings too grandiose for her station glint under the candlelight, and her smile whispers of ambitions that stretch far beyond this feast. You swiftly break eye contact lest she mark you as a potential adversary. Then arrives the moment no one dares confess they dread the entry of the Sultan. As he steps into the room, the very air seems to dance with tension. Should his gaze land upon you, a letter, an invitation, any sign could follow. Outwardly, you remain the epitome of tranquility, but inside your soul might just be performing its own wild dance. If he passes by without a glance, you nod as if content with this dismissal. After all, who would want to be summoned when there are such delightfully suspicious grapes to chew? By the dinner's close, nothing has ostensibly occurred, yet everything has shifted. Power has been exchanged through the subtle lift of an eyebrow or the ripple of polite laughter. You stand, you bow, you exit, still hungry, still wearing that enigmatic smile. Still very much in the game, you attempt sleep, an endearing notion in this palace where the night is but a quieter continuation of the day's drama. The lanterns dim the fountains outside, whisper secrets, and you lie there wondering if tonight is when a sultan might choose your door. You know the rules well. The sultan's choice is made in secret, sometimes with purpose, other times on a whim, perhaps because a girl dropped a fig with such grace. There's no rhyme or reason, only the pulse of anticipation and the soft, silk-threaded anxiety that weaves through the night. Around you, the other women feign sleep. One's breath is too loud, another fusses with her veil, as if it could shield her from both misfortune and fortune. Everyone waits, everyone hopes, everyone fears. You try to feign indifference, but deep down, you know the truth. You care profoundly and desperately. 2 days ago, a rose was placed in your hand, its thorns pricking at your curiosity. Was it a gesture of admiration or a veiled threat? Perhaps it was both, or perhaps it was neither. In this palace, every message is a riddle, every word, a potential trap set by a council of covert poets. Then the sound of gentle footsteps. A door creaks, and from somewhere a voice whispers a name. Not yours. You let out a breath, a mix of relief and an inexplicable pang of disappointment. emotions swirling like a fine cocktail in a silver goblet. You turn over, eyes shut, only for your mind to betray you, conjuring up dialogues with the Sultan in tongues you're still mastering. In your dreams, you don't see home. Its image has faded into a blur. Instead, you see her. The woman from across the dining table, her earrings ostentatiously large for her status. She smiles at you in your dream, her gaze piercing. You wake up convinced she's plotting your downfall, perhaps your exile, or at least your permanent entrapment in endless loot lessons. You dab rosewater beneath your nose, trying to convince yourself of its soothing properties. It doesn't calm you, but its scent whispers of control, of composure you desperately cling to. As dawn breaks, sleep finally claims you. You have made it through another night without being summoned, without being forgotten, without seeming too eager or too lackluster. In the grand Topkapi palace that's not just rest, it's a triumph in the delicate dance of diplomacy. Within the harem, two tales are whispered. One a fairy tale where the Sultan's gaze transforms your life with luxury power and perhaps even a diamond as large as a walnut. The other, the stark reality where the Sultan, ruler of an empire stretching from Hungary to Arabia, might not even recall your name. You are but one of hundreds possibly summoned just because you resemble a painting he once admired. You've just settled into your evening routine, perhaps pondering over a cup of coffee that's a touch too bitter or seeking a moment's distraction when the eunuch arrives. Without preamble, he knocks on your door as twilight deepens. He doesn't offer explanations, only a respectful bow. Your heart thumps like a royal drumline as you rise, the silence amplifying the anticipation. Guided through halls bathed in the warm glow of lanterns, the air heavy with the scent of sandalwood. You walk a path that has seen countless others, though few return with tales to tell. You reach a chamber where your reflection greets you from the gleam of polished brass and intricate tile mosaics. An attendant gives your veil a final touch, anoints your ears with one more drop of oil, and with a look that speaks volumes advises. Smile, but not too much. Speak only when spoken to. And for the love of Allah, don't trip. You step inside and there he is, the Sultan, the figure of your training, your fears, your daydreams during Quran lessons. Clad in silk robes, his face an unreadable canvas, he asks, "Your name, the new one, not the one your mother gave you." You respond with a law smooth as silk. The conversation drifts to poetry and he nods in acknowledgement. Then he extends a fig towards you. What does it signify in the Harem? Every gesture is a metaphor, and this fruit is no exception. Is it a test of your refinement, an invitation, or a subtle hint at his dietary preferences? You accept the fig, peel it with delicate care, and craft a reply that dances between elegance and enigma, hinting at the sweet things that conceal bitterness. You hope it sounds profound, though it might just reveal your hunger. The night unfolds in a tapestry of conversation music, in those silent pauses that feel like judgments. When you are dismissed, it's with a simple nod. Escorted back alone, you are left intact yet thoroughly bewildered. You've been noticed, and now what does this mean for you? The dawn's first light had barely kissed the horizon when you returned your steps as gentle as whispers, as if the very ground beneath you might shatter the delicate illusion you briefly entertained. You reclined, not truly sleeping, beside the empire's most formidable figure, your heart racing to the rhythm of suppressed excitement, ensuring your perfume didn't betray the beads of anxiety that threatened to form. Your words, you recall, danced around topics of poetry or perhaps goats. The specifics escape you now. The unicorn's silent sentinels of your passage offered no judgment. Their silence was a comforting blanket compared to the knowing smirks of the court. Back in the harem, the air held a different essence. The familiar jasmine incense and rose oil in the hallway were now tinged with an undercurrent of attention. The concubines, ever so refined, did not dare look at you directly. Such vulgarity was beneath them. Yet their glances were like decorative daggers, sharp and fleeting, touching your shoulders with a subtle acknowledgement of your new, albeit ambiguous, status. At breakfast, your seat had shifted, a subtle migration towards the center, a nod to your burgeoning relevance. Your sherbet, a touch colder than that of your companions, whispered secrets of favoritism in its chill. Despite your unchanged rank, the lowliness of your position now bore a different weight. You were under a new kind of watch, not from the palace guards, but from the eyes of every soul around you. Suddenly, girls who once ignored you now sought to share verses of Persian poetry, their voices sweet with feigned interest. A servant perhaps too carelessly left a pomegranate on your tray, its presence as blatant as a cradle placed before you, symbolizing fertility and future. Even your adversaries softened their demeanor, offering slight nods, their eyes, however, sharp and entertained like cats watching a flickering candle. The older concubine statues of experience betrayed no emotion. They had seen this play before. Some had even played your part 5 years ago. One or two, perhaps, had once been you caught in the same delicate balance of power and perception. You tread through the remainder of the day, your every move honed by the harem's relentless training in the art of neutrality. You respond when spoken to, your smile just the right shade of courteous, your gait confident, as if this opulent world has always been your stage. Yet the true challenge lies in concealing the storm of emotions brewing within. Here in this palace of grandeur, feelings are a currency, and yours are under a tight lock and key. You've set foot on the palace's invisible ladder, the one whispered about in hushed tones where each step is as unstable as the next. It doesn't lean against a wall, but floats, shifts, and sometimes breaks under the weight of unchecked ambition. The first rung is to endure the spotlight. Your name, your new government-issued Ottoman moniker, now flutters through the halls, not with a shout, but with a whisper that's just loud enough to make you feel like a pawn in a grand silent game. One day, a concubine who previously might have mistaken you for a piece of furniture now compliments your embroidery with a newfound respect. The next, you're offered fig paste by someone whose eyes gleam with a hint of malice rather than kindness. You decline with a gentle, no thank you, understanding the dangerous dance of court politics. Reassignment comes, and with it a chamber that boasts 2 extra cushions, superior lighting, and a mirror that reflects your face without the grotesque distortions of medieval art. This isn't kindness, it's a sign, a signal. You're ascending like the gentle rise of steam in the hammam, visible, transient, and occasionally scalding. Now begins the perilous game of strategic modesty. Too much pride and you're deemed arrogant. Too much humility and you're thought manipulative. If you stumble over your robes and collapse onto the prayer mat, well, that's just an unfortunate event, yet they'll talk about it for days. The Valide Sultan, the Sultan's mother and the puppeteer of all that glitters, begins to take notice, not with a direct gaze, but through the slight nod of her steward, a silent acknowledgement of your presence in this intricate tapestry of power and intrigue. As you navigate the labyrinthine corridors of the palace, each encounter is laden with meaning. A nod in the hallway, it's more than a mere greeting, it's an endorsement, a warning, or perhaps a cryptic mix of both. Your peers, meanwhile, sort themselves into distinct groups, the friendly opportunists whose smiles conceal their ambitions, the silent threats who lurk in the shadows of your peripheral vision, and the one terrifying girl whose very existence seems fueled by a desire for melanin revenge. You learn to tread this social minefield with a smile that whispers respect and eyes that promise survival. One morning, pearls unexpectedly grace your caftan, small and lustrous at the collar. Are they a gift, a test, or merely pearls? You wear them like armor, their sheen a testament to your careful navigation through the court's treacherous waters. Every gesture now carries weight, your walk, your bow, the duration of your gaze. This is no mere flirtation. This is diplomacy in its most delicate form. Slippers on you ascend the palace stairs with the grace of a diplomat, knowing well that a fall could see you join the ranks of those who once bore pearls and now line the floors. In the palace, moments exist that make your heart race. Being summoned by the Sultan is one such thrill, but being noticed by the Valide Sultan, that's an entirely different realm of exhilaration. She doesn't merely manage the harem, she embodies it. She's the architect of alliances, the guardian of traditions, a figure who can shift from a benevolent grandmother to a political tempest in a heartbeat. Today, her gaze finds you not a fleeting look, not a casual nod, but a deliberate, piercing stare. It's a look that says she knows your origins, your destiny, and even the peculiar way you slice your melons. Your heart races, but outwardly you respond with mechanical precision, bowing just so, lowering your gaze to show respect without subservience. Instantly, your mind races, questioning every sartorial choice of the past month. Later, a steward arrives bearing an invitation to assist with one of the Valida's charitable sewing projects. The message is clear: she wants to watch you to see how you operate in a less formal setting. You navigate the labyrinthine corridors of the palace, each step echoing with the weight of ambition, a trait easily sensed by the sharp-eyed matriarchs who preside over this domain. Arriving punctually, you avoid the perils of desperation and suicide. There she sits ensconced among plush cushions, her embroidery hoops scattered like shields, her silence a challenge that beckons you to break it first. Yet you remain silent, threading a needle with a grace that masks the intensity of this moment, this test cloaked in the guise of domesticity. The air is thick with the polite chatter of the other women, their voices a gentle hum. She, the vulture of the room, listens intently. Her occasional questions pierce the air. Where did you receive your education? Which surah speaks to your soul? Have you ever encountered a mind that truly grasps the dance of politics? Each response you give is measured elegant, for indeed your future hinges on this delicate balance. At one fleeting moment, her smile graces a space near you, a near miss that feels like a direct hit. The session concludes and you bow, retreating with the composure of one who has just stepped off a precipice, unsure if you've soared or plummeted. Back in your chamber, your roommate's gaze is one of awe, as if you've just dismounted a mythical beast. She looked at you, she breathes, her voice barely a whisper. You nod, a faint smile playing on your lips, your heart still racing from the encounter. Then a knock at the door, not the soft touch of friendship, nor the brisk rap of duty, but a knock laden with intent. A message is delivered, an invitation to tea with one of the Sultan's most favored consorts. Her name is spoken in hushed tones, a melody laced with danger. She is a figure of immense power, her presence both an opportunity and a warning. You accept because in this world, refusal is not an option. You approach this delicate dance of decorum with the precision of a mathematician. Your attire is neither ostentatious nor dull, for to err too much in either direction could be perceived as a slight or a challenge to her status. You choose an ensemble that whispers, I am competent yet not a threat. With a humble yet elegant touch, you add a hairpin that speaks volumes of your understated ambition. The tea room, a chamber of quietude and opulence, suffocates with the weight of its own silence. She lounges there, the very picture of repose, as if she had invented the art of reclining. Her robe, a tapestry of wealth, might just be worth more than the entire town where you were born. With a flick of her wrist, she invites you to sit, and you do so with a grace that suggests deference without desperation. She herself pours the tea, an act that could be seen as either an extraordinary honor or a profound statement of power, or perhaps both. What ensues is a delicate ballet of veiled threats wrapped in the silk of compliments. I hear you've caught the eye of some very influential figures. She remarks, her tone suggesting you've inadvertently adopted a wild, unpredictable beast. Her smile at your response, does it signal approval or merely mark you for future reference? You converse on poetry, music, the intricacies of palace life. She nods, her mind seemingly elsewhere, occasionally casting a glance toward the door, pondering perhaps if your presence is worth her time or merely another fleeting entry in her collection of aspiring courtiers. After the second cup, she dismisses you with a smile that could either propel you to the heights of courtly favor or plunge you into obscurity. You retreat to your chambers, weary and uncertain, pondering whether you've been recruited, warned, or claimed. One thing is clear, someone of immense importance now knows your name, a fact that serves as both your greatest asset and your most perilous liability. In this palace, words are like spices used sparingly, each with a purpose. Speak too freely and you expose yourself, too little and you fade into oblivion. But strike the right balance and you might just find your voice in the intricate symphony of court life. In this gilded cage, you're thriving, your silence a weapon as sharp as any sword. Today's lesson unfolds within the hallowed walls of the music chamber, where a coterie of senior concubines assembles to engage in the delicate art of discussing poetry, philosophy, and let's admit it, each other. You are invited to join them, a seemingly gracious gesture that cloaks a deeper scrutiny. You arrive, punctually extend the customary courtesies, and settle into the corner, folding yourself like a well-mannered napkin. Sipping your sherbet, you nod at the right moments, feigning interest but not enthusiasm. A soft laugh escapes your lips at a jest just enough to appear human, not eager. And then the moment arrives. One of the elder women, her gaze piercing, turns to you with a question. It's not a trap, not yet merely a straightforward inquiry about your thoughts on a particular verse. But you know the game. This isn't about poetry, it's about timing. You pause not too long to seem unprepared, but long enough to appear contemplative. Your response is reflective, reverent, and most crucially vague. They nod satisfied. You've passed this silent examination. Later, the question shifts to the Sultan's latest charitable endeavor. Your words are carefully chosen, complementing the elegance of the idea without diving into the murky waters of politics. You employ terms like humbling and visionary, playing a game of verbal chess where every move is calculated. Here in this chamber of whispers, power is not wielded through loud declarations, but through the subtleties of silence, the lingering glance, the smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes. In the pause before a reply, where everyone subtly leans in to catch the direction of the political wind, you leave the room having uttered less than a dozen sentences, yet somehow your name dances on the lips of 3 more souls than it did the day before. You're not just surviving, you're thriving, your silence a weapon as sharp as any sword. As you continue to navigate this silent dance, where every gesture and silence carries more weight than any spoken word, you sense the walls themselves listening, ever present and watchful. Suddenly you find a gift on your pillow, a small velvet box tied with a ribbon that whispers of dried rose petals, its color a subtle hint of concealed judgment. With a mix of anticipation and dread, you lift the lid, the box opening like a secret chamber in a harem, revealing neither perfume nor scorpions, but something equally enigmatic, a bracelet of exquisite craftsmanship with inlaid turquoise and gold filigree. Its beauty is undeniable, yet its presence is alarming. Here, nothing is merely a gift. Your roommate observes you, her eyebrow arching like the crescent moon, her silence a shield of either politeness or strategic ignorance. The bracelet, you can't help but notice, is too lavish to be a simple trinket. It lacks the royal flair of the Sultan's offerings, suggesting instead a giver who is wealthy, calculating with a penchant for controlling the narrative. With the bracelet now adorning your wrist, the game begins anew. By mid-morning, the whispers start at the fountain. She received a gift. The response, from whom, echoes with an unspoken urgency. Your expression remains a serene blend of modesty, confusion, and a touch of ennui, while inside your mind races through past interactions, searching for clues, enemies, allies, anyone with a fondness for turquoise. By lunchtime, the rumors have taken on a life of their own. You've supposedly been handed a secret message, a covert proposal, or perhaps an heirloom from the Valley Sultan herself. Each tale is as untrue as it is dangerously plausible. Then amidst the murmur of speculation, a lowly servant girl, her voice barely a whisper as she drops your tray, mutters a warning, "Be careful who places things in your hand when they dare not speak." Her words, like a soft breeze through the quarters, chill you, stirring a whirl of thoughts about trust, deceit, and the intricate dance of power and perception in this opulent prison of whispers. You thank her with a gracious nod, acknowledging her subtle warning, cloaked in clumsiness. It's a delicate dance, this game of hidden messages and feigned accidents. The bracelet, a deceptive token of affection, remains on your wrist, but by night it finds sanctuary beneath your pillow. In the harem, gifts are seldom tokens of love. They are tests, leashes, labels, or silent reminders that your name echoes in corridors you've yet to tread. And sometimes the most perilous adornment is not a smile, but evidence that someone seeks to claim you as their own. One morning, as the muezzin's call to prayer whispers through the cool pre-dawn air, you are summoned, not by a eunuch, not by a servant, but by a letter sealed in imperial blue wax, delivered with a cryptic glance that speaks volumes of impending change. Alone you peruse the elegant script. The offer is unequivocal in elevation. You are to be moved to more secluded quarters near the Sultan, closer to the heart of the palace, and further from the shadows of anonymity. On paper, it's a promotion. Yet here in the harem, a promotion is merely a more elegant term for exposure. You step into a world of genuine influence where politics and intrigue intertwine, where the prospect of bearing a royal child, becoming a consort, or even the Sultan's favorite looms large. It's a dream for some, a nightmare for others, a place where women can vanish without a trace. You have until sunset to decide. Wandering through the gardens, once a sanctuary where you hid from the knowing glances of elder concubines, everything now seems smaller. The fountains still murmured their secrets, the tulips still bloom with delicate whispers, but the air feels charged electric with the murmur of your name. You reflect on home now, a distant blurry memory, and think of the other girls, their fates intertwined with yours in this labyrinth of power and desire. What paths will they tread, these young women caught in the web of royal ambition? What future awaits you in this gilded cage? As you reflect on those who never rose, those who rose too swiftly, and those whose cleverness fell short, you find yourself contemplating not the refined version schooled in the arts of etiquette and poetry, but the raw, unpolished girl with her old name, a secret whisper nestled deep within her. This night you choose your attire with meticulous care, making one final defining decision. You step beyond the velvet curtains, those silken boundaries that divide the familiar from the mysterious. In this quiet moment, you respond to the silent call of destiny. Perhaps you will ascend to greatness. Perhaps you will disappear into the shadows. Your name might be etched into the annals of the palace, or it could be murmured for the last time, then tenderly folded away like a silk scarf in a drawer, untouched and forgotten. But one truth remains unshaken. You were never merely an ornament. You were a strategist in a world of opulence, a survivor amidst the scent of danger, a master of self-control. And for one entire day, perhaps more, you navigated the precarious line between power and peril, never once losing your balance. Before comic books and Hollywood blockbusters brought Amazons to life, the ancient world had its own fierce warriors. Meet the Scythian women, these horse-riding, bow-wielding warriors from the vast Eurasian steppes, who not only challenged gender norms, but trampled them under their galloping hooves. The Scythians, a nomadic tribe, roamed across what is now Ukraine, southern Russia, and parts of Central Asia. Herodotus, the Greek historian, spoke of formidable Amazon women who united with Scythian men to sire a lineage of warriors. For centuries, scholars dismissed these tales as mere products of Greek imagination, perhaps fueled by a bit too much wine. Yet recent archaeological discoveries paint a starkly different picture, one grounded in the very bones of history. Excavations of Scythian burial mounds or kurgans have unearthed the remains of women interred with the full accoutrements of warriors' swords, spears, quivers of arrows, and even the marks of battle. Imagine the scene: a young warrior, her skeleton a testament to her fierce life, discovered in the Alai Mountains. In the heart of this ancient land, the Scythian women bore the scars of battle, their spines pierced by the cruel tips of arrowheads, a haunting testament to their fierce combat. They were interred alongside their battle-ready steeds, armored and battle-worn not as mere symbols, but as companions in arms. Here was a civilization that did not merely tolerate women warriors. It celebrated them, expected them to stand as equals in the fray. Unlike the rigidly patriarchal structures of neighboring societies, Scythia fostered a unique environment where both men and women shared the roles of hunter and raider. From childhood, girls were schooled in the art of archery and horsemanship, ascending to positions of power and influence. Even Scythian priestesses wielded spiritual authority, blending the fearsome warrior with the revered ritualist, a duality that both fascinated and terrified the Greeks. In awe and horror, the Greeks spun tales of Amazons, these wild man-hating warriors who shunned civilization. Yet beneath these myths lay the gritty reality of their encounters with the Scythians. These women defied the Greek ideal of the docile domestic. They were otherworldly, formidable, and thus immortalized in legend. So when someone scoffs at the notion of female warriors as mere fantasy, remind them that the Scythians were living this reality to 500 years ago. Their legacy is not whispered in myth, but etched in the bones of the fallen, their stories told not in tales, but in the iron truths of their burial grounds. And if you believe that the battlefield was a domain exclusively for men, you've clearly not heard of the queens of Africa. These were not the soft, silk-clad figures of palace lore, but battle-hardened sovereigns who commanded legions, forged alliances, and faced empires head-on. They did not merely engage in warfare, they reshaped its very essence. Consider Queen Amanus of Kush, for instance. In the 1st century BCE, as the Roman Empire, buoyed by its recent annexation of Egypt, attempted to extend its reach, they met their match in her, venturing south into Nubia. Amani-Renès, the one-eyed queen who had already tasted the ferocity of battle, harbored grander visions than mere survival. With a heart full of defiance, she rallied her people, orchestrating a series of audacious counterattacks, capturing Roman forts with a boldness that echoed through history. In a move dripping with irony and contempt, she had a statue of Augustus decapitated and buried beneath her temple, steps a silent yet unmistakable declaration of her power and disdain. Imagine Rome, one of the mightiest empires the world has ever known, compelled to seek peace with this formidable one-eyed warrior queen. Yet Amani was not a solitary figure in the annals of African leadership. Across the continent, female rulers often doubled as military strategists and commanders. Take, for instance, Queen Amina of Zazzau in what we now call Nigeria. In the 16th century, she led cavalry raids across the Hausa lands, her name synonymous with expansion. She not only fortified cities with walls, but also carved trade routes through the very heart of her domain. Never did her gender limit her authority on the battlefield. Her soldiers revered her not merely for her title, but because she could outfight most of them with her prowess and strategy. Further south, the kingdom of Dahomey was shielded by the Agogi, an all-female military regiment, later dubbed the Dahomey Amazons by the French. These were no mere ceremonial guards. They were the fierce frontline fighters trained from childhood in the arts of war, endurance, and discipline. They stood as elite protectors of the royal family, often leading the charge in battle. Some narratives even suggest they were more aggressive than their male counterparts, perhaps driven by a need to prove themselves, or simply because they reveled in the thrill of combat. These women were not anomalies, but pillars of their societies. In many African cultures, women were expected to be adept not only in politics and economics, but also in military strategy. They negotiated with colonizers, resisted subjugation, and commanded troops with a natural authority that was deeply ingrained in their cultural fabric. So the next time someone asserts that history was penned by men with swords, remember to add yes, but some of those swords were wielded by women whose stories are equally, if not more, compelling. When one envisions the great battles of ancient Greece or Rome, it's the image of male soldiers clad in gleaming bronze armor, marching off to war that springs to mind. Yet linger behind these battle lines and you'll discover another breed of warrior. Not one who donned a tunic for combat, but who seized arms when the city's very survival hung in the balance. In these ancient civilizations, women, though typically confined to roles of hearth and home, religious rites, or symbolic significance, were thrust into the crucible of defense when invaders threatened. In classical Athens, the official decree barred women from military service. Their lives were predominantly domestic, yet when the Persians loomed large, these boundaries dissolved like mist. During those dire times, Greek women transformed into the unsung heroes of the battlefield, managing logistics, tending to the wounded, and in moments of sheer desperation, hurling roof tiles down from the city walls upon the enemy below. It wasn't the stuff of legends, but it was effective. Consider the siege of Plataea in 429 BCE, where women trapped within their city's embrace took up whatever weapons they could find. They fought alongside the dwindling defenders, their resolve as unyielding as the city walls. Thucydides notes their crucial role in the resistance. These were not warriors by trade, but citizens by necessity. War, after all, does not pause for lack of preparation. Across the Tiber in Rome, women were similarly excluded from formal military roles. Yet the annals of Roman history are rich with stories of women stepping beyond the expected when disaster struck. During the sack of Rome by the Gauls in 390 BCE, women not only negotiated with the invaders, offering their own jewelry to fund defense efforts, but also bolstered the spirits of the beleaguered city. In later conflicts, like the Second Punic War, these women often accompanied their husbands to the camps, some even serving as informal strategists or advisors. One cannot overlook the dramatic tale from the sack of Rome in 410 CE by Alaric. As the city trembled, the women's resolve shone brightly, their actions echoing through the ages. As the Visigoths stormed the city, noble women like Proba and her peers transformed their estates into sanctuaries of safety. They armed their servants, orchestrating a defense that pulsed through the veins of the urban chaos. These were not mere bystanders in their own tragedy. They were warriors of will, actively shaping their survival. In an era where war was not confined to the clash of swords on distant battlefields, but was waged with sharp wit, raw courage, and often sheer desperation, these women stood firm, defending their homes when all others had fallen. Imagine, if you will, being a Roman governor in Britannia around 60 CE. Your darkest fears bore a name, and that name was Boudica. She was not merely a queen, she was a tempest of vengeance, a blaze of fury. Boudica had the remarkable ability to galvanize an entire nation of incensed Britons into open rebellion against the mightiest empire the world had known. She was the heart and soul of the Iceni tribe in eastern Britain. Following the death of her husband, King Prasutagus, he bequeathed his kingdom to his daughters and the Roman Empire, hoping for peace. But Rome, in its imperial arrogance, dismissed the will, seized the land, and in a cruel twist of fate, publicly flogged Boudica. The unspeakable horror continued as her daughters were violated. This was not merely political subjugation, it was the deepest humiliation. And Boudica, with the fire of retribution burning in her heart, would not let it stand. What ensued was not a mere skirmish, but an all-consuming war. Boudica emerged as the emblem of this uprising, leading a ferocious coalition of tribes in a campaign that scorched the earth and shook Roman authority to its very foundation. Their first target was Camulodunum, the modern-day Colchester, which they reduced to rubble. Then came Londinium, today's London, engulfed in flames. Verulamium, now St. Albans, met the same fiery end. The Roman historian Cassius Dio painted her as a towering, intimidating figure, her mane of red hair and fierce demeanor, inciting her warriors to a battle frenzy. Tacitus, with a fervor that matched the intensity of his subject, highlighted her commanding presence and unyielding spirit. He portrayed her not merely as a noble figure, but as a mother scorned and a warrior reborn, rallying her troops with a voice that thundered like the storm she sought to unleash upon Rome. In the beginning, her forces tasted the sweet nectar of victory, but fate, ever the capricious mistress, soon turned her tide. Under the seasoned leadership of Governor Suetonius Pinus, the Roman legions, a well-oiled machine of war, met Boudica's less equipped yet fiercely determined rebels. The battlefield, once a canvas of hope, became a grim tapestry of slaughter. Budaka, in her final act of defiance, either swallowed poison or fell by the sword. History's pages blur in their verdict. Yet her fall did not dim her legacy. The Romans, shaken to their core, learned a bitter lesson in humility and respect. They tread more carefully in the lands of the tribes, ever mindful of the name that had once made their empire quake with fear. Budaka's rebellion was more than a mere revolt. It was a clarion call, a stark reminder that the most formidable adversary is often the one with nothing left to lose. And in this tale, that adversary was a mother with a chariot, her eyes aflame with the memories of her people's suffering. Shift your gaze now to the serene landscapes of feudal Japan, where the image of the samurai typically conjures a stoic armored man, his loyalty unwavering, his sword ever ready. Yet peel back the layers of cherry blossoms and scrolls of Bushido, and you will discover another kind of warrior, one draped in silk, yet forged in steel. The Honoracia. These noble women warriors were not just figments of legend, but very real, very deadly. Trained in the arts of war, from archery to strategy, they formed the silent, unyielding backbone of many a samurai clan. Though seldom seen on the open fields of battle like their male kin, when duty called, be it to defend their homes' castles or the honor of their lineage, they stepped into the fray, their resolve as sharp as their blades. One such legendary figure was Tomoe Goen, a 12th century warrior of the Genpei War, immortalized in the Heike Monogatari, Japan's epic saga of war and honor. Known for her unparalleled horsemanship and archery, Tomoe's name was whispered with reverence and awe, a testament to the power and prowess of women warriors in a world dominated by men. She swept through the battlefield like a storm, her katana slicing through the air with deadly precision, capable of felling multiple foes with a single graceful arc. Clad in full armor, her long black hair flowed behind her like a banner of war, proclaiming her fierce presence. At the Battle of Aozu, her legend was cemented when she engaged in single combat, her blade meeting its mark with a decisive echoing clang, severing the life of a rival samurai. This was her final blaze of glory, a moment of unparalleled valor before she vanished from the annals of history, a ghostly warrior on horseback. And then there's Nano Teo, a formidable figure from the 19th century Boshin War. Not officially part of the imperial army, for women were barred from such ranks, she defiantly created her own force. These were no mere followers, but a corps of fierce female warriors skilled with the naginata, their pole weapons dancing in battle like extensions of their own wills. She met her end leading a charge against the imperial forces, her chest pierced by a bullet. Her last wish, to be buried with honor by her sister, ensuring that her body would not fall into enemy hands. These women were not mere tokens or legends. They were the living embodiment of Bushido loyalty, bravery, and self-sacrifice. Trained alongside men, they proved their mettle in the crucible of war. As Japan modernized, centralizing its military might, these valiant women, the Honoracia, were pushed aside, their stories relegated to folklore. Yet their legacy pulses through Japan's history, a testament to the blood-soaked tales of samurai clashes and castle sieges. Their blades, like those of their male counterparts, were honed to razor-sharp perfection, ready to carve their names into history. Now imagine the Roman Colosseum, a place where cruelty was entertainment, where testosterone-fueled violence was the norm. Here, lion spears, slaves, and sweating gladiators clashed in mortal combat. But did you know, hidden beneath the well-trodden tales of male gladiators lies the lesser-known truth of female gladiators, the gladiatrices? Though rare, these women did exist, not merely as spectators or servants, but as fierce combatants. Trained in the same rigorous gladiator schools, they fought before roaring crowds, their presence a defiant challenge to the norms of their time. Imagine the roar of the crowd, the clashing of steel, and the pounding of hearts as two fierce women, Amazon and Achilea, faced off in the arena. Their battle, immortalized in a marble relief from Halicarnassus, wasn't just a spectacle of strength, but a testament to their skill and courage. They fought not for glory alone, but for honor, their combat ending in a noble draw. These were not mere entertainers. They were warriors, their names echoing the legends of mythic heroines, challenging the very notion of what it meant to be a gladiator. Consider the audacity, the sheer defiance of societal norms when these women stepped into the arena. Roman emperors, ever the showmen, reveled in the titillation and terror of such displays. Nero, with his flair for the dramatic, and others like him, found the novelty of female gladiators irresistible. Yet to reduce these women to mere spectacles would be to ignore the reality of their existence. They trained rigorously, their lives hanging in the balance with each fight. They wielded swords, tridents, and nets, their blood mingling with the sand just as readily as any man's. The literary voices of the time, like the satirist Juvenal, scoffed at the idea of women warriors painting their choice as a scandalous rejection of traditional femininity. Yet there were those who watched, perhaps under the cover of night, as these gladiatrices fought under the flickering light of torches amidst crowds intoxicated by wine and spectacle. These women were not just slaves, prisoners, or criminals sentenced to die in the arena. Some chose this life. Volunteers known as octorati sought fame, money, or perhaps an escape from even grimmer fates. But by 200 AD, Emperor Septimius Severus, perhaps fearing the unsettling shift in Roman values or the undeniable prowess of these fighters, banned women from such combat. In the shadow of the Colosseum, where gender seemed to matter little, the gladiatrices made their mark, a brutal, blood-stained legacy of skill, ferocity, and survival. The medieval battlefield, often thought of as a male preserve, was about to witness its own transformation. The call of battle, the clashing of steel, and the rallying cries of warriors were not exclusively the domain of men in medieval times. Despite societal norms dictating otherwise, some women, driven by an unyielding spirit or perhaps a divine whisper, chose to defy convention. They became the silent warriors, the warrior nuns, and the brave souls who donned male attire to partake in the fray. Imagine the scene: convents, usually sanctuaries of peace and prayer, suddenly transformed into fortresses of defense when enemies threatened. Warrior nuns, not content with mere intercession, took up arms, their rosaries clinking alongside their weapons. Records whisper tales of abbesses like the 12th century abbess of Quedlinburg, who, though not clad in armor, commanded her vassals with the precision of a seasoned general. Her voice, firm and commanding, echoed through the battlefield, guiding her troops with strategic brilliance. Then there were those who, through sheer audacity, became men on paper and in deed. History notes numerous women who, under the guise of male identity, enlisted in armies. Some met grim fates when discovered, yet others, like the enigmatic figure known only as John, were so adept in combat that their comrades shrugged off their true identity, allowing them to fight on. And who could forget Joan of Arc, the peasant girl, whose divine visions and fierce leadership turned the tides of war? Yet for every Joan celebrated, countless unnamed women existed, their stories woven into the fabric of history, their contributions less heralded but no less vital. Beyond the battlefield, noble women like Eleanor of Aquitaine played pivotal roles in defense strategies, managing resources, and even negotiating terms with adversaries, their minds sharp as any sword. These women, with their indomitable spirits and strategic minds, remind us, why should the valor and cunning of battle be confined by gender? Their tales are not just of survival, but of defiance, of breaking chains, of proving that courage knows no bounds. Imagine the clank of armor, the clatter of swords, and the fierce cry of a woman charging into battle. Picture her a silhouette against the chaos, her armor not just a shield, but a symbol of defiance and strength. This is no mere tale of chivalry. It's the story of women who dared to bend the rigid structures of the Middle Ages to their will. Did they wear armor as a statement for protection or as part of a grand performance? The debate continues, but the point is clear. The medieval world was far from the monolithic entity history often paints it to be. Women with ingenuity and courage found ways to circumvent the rules, or when necessary, rewrite them entirely. Their names might not always grace the pages of history, but their presence was undoubtedly felt on the battlefield, echoing through time like a clarion call. Consider the medieval Islamic world often envisioned with its flowing robes, grand courts, and scholarly debates. Yet within this tapestry, there were women who grasped swords, led armies, and defended their cities when men faltered. Take, for instance, Kala binta Lazos, whose name reverberates through Arab folklore like the roar of a lioness. A 7th century warrior, she fought alongside her brother during the early Muslim conquests. When he was captured by Byzantine forces, she didn't hesitate. Clad in black armor, she stormed the enemy lines, her sword slicing through the air with such precision that soldiers mistook her for Khalid ibn al-Walid, the famed general known as the Sword of Allah. When her true identity was revealed, did morale falter? No, it surged. Her skill and bravery had earned her a place among the warriors. This was no isolated event. In times of crisis, particularly during sieges, women across the Islamic world took up arms. During the Mongol invasions of the 13th century, as empires crumbled, women fought in the streets of Nishapur and other cities, hurling stones, brandishing daggers, transforming their homes into fortresses. They weren't trained for war, but desperation proved to be an exceptional instructor. Further west in Al-Andalus, Islamic Spain, noble women weren't confined to the shadows either. They wielded significant political and military influence, their actions shaping the course of history. Wada bint al-Mustakfi, for instance, left an indelible mark on the era, her legacy a testament to the indomitable spirit of women who refused to be sidelined by the conventions of their time. Though celebrated for her lyrical prowess, she inhabited a realm where women of her standing often managed vast estates and bravely defended them amidst turbulent times. Fast forward a few centuries to the Reconquista, where Muslim women stood shoulder to shoulder with their husbands, safeguarding Granada's last bastions. Then there's Sayyida al-Hara, not merely a warrior on the battlefield, but a formidable pirate queen. In the 16th century, she commanded fleets across the Western Mediterranean, instilling terror in European vessels. Allying with the notorious Barbarossa of the Ottoman Navy, she was both a political strategist and a naval commander, a formidable force on both land and sea. In numerous Islamic communities, the ethos of modesty harmoniously coexisted with the pressing demands of survival. When flames consumed cities and armies faltered, the veil was cast aside and the sword was drawn. In these critical moments, history did not recall them as women who transgressed norms, but as valiant warriors who redefined them. For centuries, history has narrated that war was a man's realm. Men led, fought, and perished with honor, while women were relegated to the sidelines waiting mourning or tending to the wounded. Yet delve deeper, in a different saga emerges a saga of women who did not wait for an invitation to battle. They stormed the battlefield often with more grit than glory. From the Scythian horse archers who perhaps inspired the Amazon legends to African queens, outwitting empires to female gladiators spilling blood in the arena, every corner of the world boasted stories of warrior women. Some were born into leadership like Queen Amina or Boudica, while others were ordinary citizens thrust into the fray when chaos offered no alternatives, such as medieval cross-dressers or women defending ancient cities under siege. What binds them is not merely bravery, but a staunch refusal to be forgotten. The legacy of these women is not quantified by the battles they fought, but by the indelible marks they left on history's canvas. They triumphed, but at what cost, one might wonder. How many conventions did they shatter? How many sacred lines did they cross? These audacious women defied the very fabric of cultural norms, religious dictates, and the ironclad boundaries of politics. They compelled generals, emperors, and the chroniclers of their times to rethink their worldviews. In many instances, this led to their deliberate erasure from the annals of history. After all, which empire would willingly confess to being shaken by a woman wielding a spear? Yet the evidence persists, etched in the bones laid to rest with their weapons whispered in ancient poems, scribbled in the margins by historians. Puzzled by these anomalies, woven into oral tales and depicted in temple murals. These narratives endured, not always whole, not always glorified, but vibrant enough to ignite the imaginations of future generations. Only recently has modern military history begun to embrace the full spectrum of women's roles in warfare. This is not about elevating women above men in the theater of war. Rather, it's about acknowledging their constant presence, even when history tried to paint them out of the picture. So when someone next claims women in combat were mere anomalies, remember this. From the scorching sands of North Africa to the icy expanses of Central Asia, from the tense sieges of castles to the thunderous charge of chariots, women were not merely participants in the war story. They were the unforeseen twist in the plot, the secret weapon. History tried to tuck them away, but like a sword drawn from its scabbard, once unsheathed, it cares not for the hand that wields it, only for the resolve behind the strike. And speaking of empires and their legacies, consider Marcus Aurelius, born on a fateful April day in 121 CE, right in the pulsating heart of Rome, an empire that spanned from the rugged shores of Britain to the sweeping dunes of Arabia. His birth name was Marcus Annius Verus, and he hailed from a lineage steeped in nobility, with roots deep in the Senate. His was not a story of rags to riches. His grandfather had been a consul, and his family was as affluent in heritage as they were in wealth. Ah, the young Marcus Aurelius, a child whose very essence seemed to defy the lavish trappings of his birthright. Imagine, if you will, a boy so earnest, so introspective, that even the toy swords of childhood could not capture his attention. Instead, he pondered the depths of human existence, asking questions that stirred the soul of the mighty emperor Hadrian himself. This thoughtful, quiet lad was no ordinary child. Hadrian saw in him a purity, a truthfulness so rare that he bestowed upon Marcus the nickname Verissimus, the most truthful. How could one not see the potential in such a soul? Hadrian, in a stroke of fate or foresight, chose Marcus for a destiny few could fathom. When his original successor past Hadrian's plan unfolded, with the adoption of Antoninus Pius, under the stipulation that Marcus would be next in line. Thus Marcus found himself on a path to power, not one of opulence and ease, but a solemn journey laden with responsibility. His education was not merely academic, it was a crucible where his spirit was forged. Greek and Latin literature, rhetoric, and philosophy were not just subjects, but the tools with which he sculpted his character, particularly through his fervent embrace of Stoicism. Philosophy to Marcus was not a distant abstract concept, but a living guide, a beacon for navigating the tumultuous seas of life. He chose to live simply sleeping on the hard floor, wearing humble garments, and fasting not for show, but to temper his spirit. Under the tutelage of the serene Antoninus Pius, Marcus learned governance through observation, absorbing every lesson like a disciple preparing for the ultimate test of leadership. Here was no prince eager for the throne, but a man approaching power with a sense of inevitable duty, a call to discipline, self-denial, and above all, moral integrity. Rome in this young man was to find not a frivolous ruler, but a leader whose every step was measured by the weight of his responsibility. As the Roman Empire stood on the precipice of change, the stage was set for the ascension of a philosopher king. With the passing of Antonius Pius in 161 CE, Marcus Aurelius, the stoic and introspective scholar, was finally poised to claim the throne. Yet in a display of remarkable humility and foresight, he did not seize power with the usual pomp and circumstance. Oh, how different Marcus was. Instead of a grand coronation, he insisted that the reins of power be shared with Lucius Verus, his adoptive brother, a man who could not have been more his opposite if he tried. Lucius Verus, with his penchant for luxury revelry and the thrill of gladiatorial combat, was a stark contrast to Marcus' disciplined and contemplative nature. While Marcus pored over philosophy by the dim glow of candlelight, Lucius was orchestrating feasts and hiring entertainers. Yet this unlikely duo proved to be more effective than anyone could have imagined. Marcus, with his eyes set on the governance of the sprawling empire, allowed Lucius to take charge of the military, a decision driven by both practicality and necessity. The empire, vast and complex, was teetering on the brink of chaos. Just months into their joint rule, the Parthian Empire, Rome's formidable eastern adversary, stirred up trouble. Lucius Verus, ever the military man, took command of the campaign, while Marcus managed the logistical backbone. The war stretched on for years, but ultimately Rome emerged victorious. But victory came at a steep price. The returning legions, weary from battle, unwittingly carried back a sinister companion, a plague now thought to be either smallpox or measles. This scourge, known as the Antonine Plague, swept through Rome with devastating effect, claiming the lives of an estimated 5 million people, including many soldiers. Cities crumbled, fields lay barren, and panic gripped the populace. And as if the fates were conspiring against Rome, the Germanic tribes along the Danube saw an opportunity in Rome's vulnerability, pressing hard against its borders. Here was Marcus Aurelius, barely into his reign, facing catastrophe from every conceivable angle. Disease, war, and political upheaval threatened to unravel the very fabric of the empire. Lucius Verus, his partner in this tumultuous time, would not live to see the resolution passing away in 169. Thus began a chapter of Marcus's rule marked by resilience, philosophy, and a relentless pursuit of stability amidst the storm. Oh, the immense burden! Marcus Aurelius bore a weight that would have crushed most rulers beneath its crushing might. Yet he stood unyielding, his spirit unbroken like a stoic sentinel amidst Rome's crumbling grandeur. He did not recoil from the tempest of adversity. Instead, he embraced it as a sacred test, a crucible in which his character would be refined or revealed. When the specter of plague swept through the empire, claiming even his co-ruler Lucius Verus, Marcus did not falter. No, he did not lament his fate with cries of despair. He donned not the regalia of a distant sovereign, but the rugged cloak of a soldier. The German tribes, seeing Rome weakened, surged across the Danube, a tidal wave of chaos. But did Marcus retreat to the safety of his palace? Absolutely not. He marched north, his resolve as solid as the earth he trod upon, setting up camp year after year, facing the harshness of the frontier, with the same equanimity he had always shown. In the midst of mud, cold, and the relentless threat of disease, Marcus did not seek the solace of glory or legacy. He penned not grand histories or proclamations of victory, but a private journal, Meditations, a testament not to his reign, but to his soul. This was not the work of a king seeking to immortalize his deeds, but of a man striving to maintain his virtue in a world spiraling into chaos. Imagine him one moment strategizing with tribal leaders, the next inscribing words of wisdom. You have power over your mind, not outside events. This was not mere philosophy. It was It was survival. It was the building of an inner citadel, a fortress of the mind where he could retreat to find strength and peace. The wars were fierce, the German tribes, formidable masters of the land, employing guerrilla tactics that tested Rome's might. But Marcus, ever the philosopher king, did not just lead, he learned. He adapted. He did not seek to conquer through might alone, but through understanding, through the steady application of his principles. And so in this theater of war, Marcus Aurelius, through his stoic endurance, not only defended Rome, but also constructed an enduring legacy of resilience and moral fortitude, a beacon for those who would come after, asking themselves, what would Marcus do? Driven by desperation, Marcus pressed forward, transforming the very fabric of Rome's military strategy. He reshaped the legions, made tough decisions, and in a radical move, opened military ranks to slaves and non-Romans in exchange for their loyalty. Traditionalists murmured their discontent, but Marcus was unmoved. I need bodies, not bloodlines, he declared with a fierce determination that echoed through the corridors of power. Despite the relentless pressure, Marcus refused to descend into cruelty. His generals, pushing for scorched earth tactics, found him steadfast in his choice for diplomacy. When cities fell, he forbade the unnecessary spilling of blood. When tribes surrendered, he extended offers of land and autonomy rather than their obliteration. On the battlefield, even amidst chaos, Marcus held fast to his stoic beliefs, like a sailor clinging to a lifeboat in a tempest. The irony was not lost on him. This man who cherished peace above all had become one of Rome's most battle-hardened emperors. Yet he bore his burdens with a somber dignity, not for conquest or fame, but to shield a faltering empire, and perhaps to prove if philosophy could endure the harsh realities of war. Indeed it could. As Marcus commanded his legions and managed border incursions, his most lasting legacy was not carved by the sword, but penned in quiet moments. Surrounded by the stark reality of tense snow and the cries of the wounded, he began to write what would become known as meditations. These were not the writings of a man seeking to impress or to sway public opinion. No, these were personal, profound reflections on life virtue, the inevitability of suffering, and the finality of death. They were his own reminders, his mental armor crafted by a man striving to retain his humanity while the world around him seemed to unravel. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one, he wrote, not as an emperor reveling in glory, but as someone desperately reminding himself to uphold integrity, especially when no eyes were upon him. This text reveals not just the external battles Marcus fought, but the internal conflict, the constant struggle to remain true to oneself in the face of overwhelming adversity. In this poignant chapter of Marcus Aurelius' life, we delve deeper into the soul of a man not swayed by the whims of Germanic tribes or the fleeting accolades of his peers, but rather by the tumultuous sea of his own emotions, anger, pride, despair. He poignantly reminds himself, in a moment of stark clarity, not to cling to expectations of gratitude. Soon, he writes, "You will have forgotten all things, and soon all things will have forgotten you." Oh, the somber reality of human existence, a truth so harsh it might chill even the most stoic of hearts. Yet for Marcus, stoicism was not an escape into joy or control. It was about embracing the harshness of reality, choosing virtue at every turn. Amidst plagues and wars, he strove not to flee from suffering, but to endure it with grace. His meditations, penned in the intellectual tongue of Greek, are peppered with wisdom from Epictetus and other Stoic philosophers, yet they resonate with a startling modernity. Marcus, in his writings, grapples with the universal fears of burnout, advises himself on remaining composed amidst trying company, and muses on the fleeting nature of fame and the overrated allure of pleasure. What makes Marcus's words timeless is their raw humanity. Here was the mightiest man of his era under the dim flicker of candlelight, wrestling with his own decency, often doubting his own virtue. He did not preach an unattainable perfection, but the relentless effort to be just, kind, and rational amidst chaos. His writings serve not as a beacon of flawless leadership, but as a testament to the struggle of self-mastery. While Marcus managed the external turmoil of invasions and sought inner peace through philosophy, his personal life whispered tales of less tranquility. His marriage to Faustina, the younger daughter of Emperor Antoninus Pius, was more than a mere political alliance. On paper, it was an affectionate bond. They shared the joys and sorrows of raising 13 children, 13 souls brought into a world fraught with the complexities of power and the inevitability of loss. Imagine the weight of such a lineage, the intertwining of duty and affection, the silent battles fought within the walls of the palace. Thus, Marcus Aurelius, in his quest to govern both Rome and his own spirit, reveals to us the profound struggle of living not just for an empire, but for the essence of being human. In the ancient city of Rome, the streets were unkind to the tender lives of the young. Only a scant few managed to thrive beyond their earliest years, their fragile existence a constant reminder of life's fleeting nature. Marcus, a man whose writings often explored the theme of impermanence, found himself living this harsh reality time and time again, laying to rest 8 of his own children. Can you fathom the sorrow of a father who, in his daily musings, pondered the transient nature of life, was forced to confront this truth in the most personal, devastating way? The Stoic philosophy, which Marcus so revered, did not erase the pain of these losses. Rather, it equipped him with the resilience to endure it. His meditations, though they seldom mention his personal tragedies, explicitly carry a tone of somber resignation, a hint of grief that simmers just beneath the surface. And then there was the tumult surrounding Fina. Historians, often more enamored with scandal than truth, painted her with the brush of infidelity and even treason. They whispered of her supposed dalliances with gladiators and soldiers and hinted at plots against Marcus himself. Yet Marcus, in his wisdom, or perhaps his mercy, never publicly castigated her. Upon her passing in 175 CE, he paid tribute to her memory with temples, coins, and statues. Was it disbelief in the rumors or a choice of forgiveness over scandal? But familial discord did not cease with Fina. Marcus's surviving son Commodus was being prepared for leadership, though his nature starkly contrasted with that of his father. While Marcus penned meditations on humility and self-restraint, Commodus, it is said, reveled in lavish spectacles, wrestling matches, and self-aggrandizement. How could a father reconcile such differences? Despite the ominous signs that Commodus might not be the wisest choice, Marcus, bound by tradition, named him co-emperor in 177 CE. This decision would later cast a long, dark shadow over his legacy, as at home and abroad pressures continued to mount. Marcus, though surrounded by chaos or private heartbreak, never faltered in his duties. He persisted in issuing legal reforms, fostering philosophy, and stabilizing an empire that was constantly threatened by change and decay. In the face of all adversity, Marcus remained steadfast, a beacon of stoic endurance in a world that seemed bent on testing his resolve. Through every trial, Marcus Aurelius stood unyielding, a beacon of composure, commitment, and profound humanity. A ruler not only challenged by the clashing steel of warfare, but also by the profound depths of love, the sting of loss, and the burden of legacy. Washington 1504. As if plagues, invasions, and personal tragedies were not trials enough, Marcus was also ensnared in the web of betrayal, the most intimate and painful when it comes from within one's own circle. In 175 CE, a revered general, Avidius Cassius, proclaimed himself emperor. This was no mere fringe rebellion. Cassius, governor of Syria, was a man Marcus had entrusted with formidable military power. Worshipped 1531. Yet his rise was not entirely his own doing. A false whisper had reached Cassius's ears. Marcus was dead. Rather than seek the truth, Cassius seized the moment, embracing the imperial title with haste, outpacing the spread of Roman news with his ambition. 1554. The East teetered on the brink of civil war, yet Marcus did not succumb to rage or despair. He did not shout accusations of betrayal. Instead, he prepared for an eastern march, not for retribution, but for reconciliation. Remarkably, Marcus even contemplated clemency for Cassius. He valued unity over personal affront, seeking to mend rather than to sever. Washington 16 and 18. His writings reveal a man resolute in preventing further bloodshed, willing to forgive the one who sought to usurp his throne. This was the essence of Stoic philosophy, maintaining serenity not merely amidst chaos, but in the face of personal affront. However, fate did not allow Marcus the opportunity to extend his mercy. Before he could reach the east, Cassius was assassinated by his own officers, fearful of the consequences Marcus's arrival would bring. Washington 16 and 44. His severed head was sent to Marcus as a macabre gift. Marcus, upon receiving it, wept. For Marcus, rebellion was not merely an assault on Rome's sovereignty. It was a poignant reminder of the fragility of human loyalty in the heavy mantle of leadership. Oh, the tragedy of it all. The very fabric of the empire, once woven with threads of unwavering loyalty, now frayed and fragile, threatening to unravel the mighty tapestry of Rome. In the aftermath of the rebellion, Marcus Aurelius did not journey through the eastern provinces in anger, but with a solemn ritual, a beacon of hope amidst the creeping instability that would soon suffocate the empire. His public ceremonies were not mere formalities. They were a testament to his resolve, a clarion call to reaffirm allegiance, ensuring no whisper of doubt lingered, especially among the soldiers. But alas, the empire's foundations were cracking under the weight of its own grandeur. The plague had mercilessly carved through the populace, leaving hollow shells of once thriving communities. Borders bled, and now even the heart of Rome's inner circle began to splinter. Marcus, ever the Stoic, saw these fractures and yet clung to reason, justice, and virtue as if they were the very mortar to rebuild Rome one stoic breath at a time. As he approached the twilight of his life, Marcus did not seek the comfort of laurels or the luxury of marble villas. No, he found himself once more on the frontier, immersed in military operations against the Germanic tribes along the Danube. Duty, relentless and unforgiving, did not retire, and neither did Marcus. The Marcomannic Wars, a relentless drain on Rome's resources and morale, were not just about territorial gains. They were a battle for survival. The Germanic tribes, driven south by the domino effect of migrating groups, were not merely raiders. They were desperate for a foothold, a prelude to the eventual fall of Rome centuries later. Yet in the 170s CE, Marcus Aurelius was still the bulwark against the tide. He reorganized frontier defenses, resettled refugee tribes as allies, and in the quiet moments between campaigns, he penned philosophical reflections in his Meditations. In one haunting passage he writes, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you." These were not the musings of a detached philosopher. They were the urgent personal reminders of a man facing the relentless march of time and duty. In the waning hours of his life, Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, sensed the inexorable approach of his final curtain. Stationed in what is now Vienna during the year 180 CE, a grave illness, perhaps the same relentless plague that had shadowed his rule, gripped him. With the weight of his mortality pressing upon him, he called his son Commodus to his bedside, imparting wisdom that has since been lost to the sands of time. Was it a beacon of philosophical insight, a pragmatic guide to rulership, or the desperate plea of a dying father? History offers no answer. On March 17th, 180 CE, Marcus breathed his last, not amidst the pomp of senators or the scribbling of chroniclers, but encircled by the stoic loyalty of soldiers. His passing signaled the somber end of an era, the Pax Romana, that golden epic of Roman tranquility, in the twilight of Rome's philosophical sovereigns. Commodus ascended the throne, a stark contrast to his father. Oh, what a twist of fate, for Rome's decline did not commence with a clamor, but with the quiet final breaths of Marcus and the gradual erosion of his legacy. There was no fanfare, no triumphant parade, no grand oration. Instead, there was only a dying emperor in a distant northern fort, embodying resilience, introspection, and duty until the very end. Marcus sought not the immortality of statues or monuments, but through the enduring strength of character. And in this, he was victorious. Yet what cruel irony did the gods weave Marcus, who championed in moderation, discipline, and reason, left his empire to Commodus, a youth of 19 whose interest lay not in stoic virtues, but in the theatricality of the arena. Commodus, dressing as Hercules, battling in the Colosseum, and proclaiming himself the Roman Hercules, humility, it seems, was a virtue that bypassed this generation. This was not merely a spectacle of folly, it was the prelude to catastrophe. Under Commodus, Rome spiraled into a vortex of decadence, suspicion, and administrative disarray. He distanced himself from the Senate, reveled in extravagant displays, and meted out death to perceived adversaries with a chilling nonchalance. The empire, once a beacon of stability and wisdom under Marcus, now teetered on the brink of ruin. Marcus Aurelius, the sage emperor who revered power as a sacred trust, must have turned in his grave to see his son Commodus treated as the grand prize of a vulgar reality spectacle. The once noble Rome, now reduced to mere bread and circuses, left historians with a haunting question that echoes through the corridors of time. Why would Marcus, the philosopher king, the epitome of stoic wisdom, bequeath the empire to a man so evidently unfit? Was it a father's blind affection, a grievous misjudgment, or was Marcus, tethered to the ancient Roman reverence for dynastic continuity, convinced he had no other path? The truth is stark yet complex. Marcus had avenues open to him. He could have selected a valiant general or an astute senator to inherit his throne. He could have defied tradition as Emperor Nerva did by choosing a worthy successor through adoption. Yet he did not. Instead, in 177 CE, he named Commodus co-emperor, perhaps naively hoping his son would absorb the lessons of leadership by osmosis. Alas, hope was in vain. It is one of history's cruelest ironies that the very emperor who penned Meditations, a timeless treatise on human virtue and resilience, failed to steer his own progeny away from becoming the archetype of imperial debauchery. Marcus was not oblivious to Commodus's shortcomings. His writings subtly hint at his disappointment, his warnings against flattery, pride and indulgence, vices that Commodus not only adopted but amplified with gusto. Yet Marcus never disowned him. Whether driven by paternal love, a sense of duty, or perhaps a weary resignation, he passed the torch only to witness the flames ravage the legacy he had so carefully built. Commodus's reign culminated in assassination, ushering Rome into the tumultuous year of the Five Emperors, a grim epilogue to Marcus's stoic governance. Marcus had held the empire together with wisdom and sheer will. Commodus, with his ego and penchant for spectacle, tore it asunder. And here lies the Stoic lesson, profound in its simplicity. Even emperors cannot dictate the future, only how they face it. Marcus Aurelius, in his final days, must have pondered this truth with a heavy heart. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher-emperor, passed from this world nearly 2 millennia ago, yet his spirit lingers a whisper in the corridors of time. He was not merely a ruler, he was a beacon of virtue in an age of turmoil. His musings, penned in the solitude of sleepless nights and amidst the chaos of wars, have withstood the relentless march of history, the collapse of empires, the birth of faiths, the relentless passage of time to stand as one of the most revered philosophical texts ever known. His legacy, oh how paradoxical it is. Marcus faced an unyielding tempest, wars that bled the empire, plagues that ravaged its people, rebellions that tore at its seams, and personal tragedies that would break lesser spirits. Yet it is not for his conquests or grand edifices that he is celebrated, but for his intellect, his temperance, his empathy, his fierce resistance to the corrupting allure of power. Unlike many rulers, Marcus did not claim divinity, nor did he crave worship. In the plainest of Greek, he inked his thoughts on how to live well, urging us to perform each act as if it might be our last. His words resonate, still echoing through the halls of power, the quiet of therapy rooms, the pages of business strategies, and in the silent moments of personal turmoil. Why do they still speak to us? Because Marcus spoke not as a king, but as a fellow human, grappling to maintain integrity in a world that seemed to crumble around him. Yet there's a poignant irony in his legacy. Despite his profound wisdom, his rule heralded the twilight of Rome's golden era. His son Commodus hastened the empire's decline, and the emperors who followed seldom mirrored his integrity or restraint. It is as if Marcus was the last clear note in the symphony of Rome's moral clarity before the dissonance set in. And perhaps that's the most haunting aspect of his tale. Marcus, who understood the fleeting nature of life better than most, left something enduringly permanent. His empire fell, his lineage weakened, but his meditations, raw and unadorned, have endured. They endured because they were never. Their raw authenticity is what renders them timeless. These entries, untouched by the hands of editors, were never crafted for public eyes. They are the intimate murmurs of a man whose life was on display, the personal journal of an emperor who desired only to live with honor, meet death with justice, and ensure the world remained unmarred by his passage through it. Could this not be the ultimate aspiration for us all? Picture Marcus Aurelius penning these thoughts in his sandals, astride a horse stylus poised, drawing strength from each stoic breath. His words, unfiltered, speak directly to the soul. Now cast your mind back to ancient Babylon, where justice was not merely decreed by kings, but was carved into stone for eternity. Around 1754 BC, King Hammurabi ordered the creation of a towering stela inscribed with what would become one of the earliest and most influential legal codes known to mankind. The Code of Hammurabi, a colossal black basalt monument standing over 7 feet, was both a beacon of order and a stern declaration of authority. It did not merely govern, it served as a warning to all. This code, with its 282 meticulously detailed laws, spanned the gamut of human interaction, from commerce to kinship, from theft to physical harm. Yet this was no democratic edict. These laws painted a picture of a society steeped in hierarchy, where the severity of punishment was not just contingent upon the crime, but also the social standing of those involved. If a nobleman shattered the bone of another of his ilk, justice demanded his own bone be broken, an eye for an eye in the most literal sense. However, should the same nobleman injure a commoner or a slave, his punishment dwindled to a mere fine. In this ancient system, justice was a scale balancing not only the deed, but the rank of the doer. It underscored personal accountability and the might of state authority. Builders whose shoddily erected homes led to the death of residents could face the ultimate penalty. Merchants caught in deceit faced severe repercussions, ensuring that the marketplace remained a realm of fairness and trust. Imagine the terror that gripped the hearts of those who might face mutilation for their misdeeds. Even the sacred bonds of family were not immune to the iron grip of regulation, with strict laws dictating the terms of marriage inheritance and parental authority. Adultery, theft, and false accusation. These were not mere crimes, but offenses against the very fabric of society, often met with the chilling finality of execution or the searing shame of public exposure. What truly set the Code of Hammurabi apart was not only its draconian content, but its audacious visibility. There it stood in the heart of public spaces, etched with the divine image of Hammurabi, receiving his authority from Shamash, the sun god, the very embodiment of justice. This was no mere legal document. It was a bold statement of power, a piece of propaganda declaring Hammurabi's rule as divinely ordained, his laws as sacred and unchangeable. Oh, how brutal it might seem to us now. Yet how revolutionary. The Code of Hammurabi did not just dictate law. It made law accessible, standardized, and visible. It transformed the whimsical judgments of the past into codified norms, setting a precedent that would ripple through the ages, influencing legal systems from Mesopotamia to the modern world. In Babylon, justice was not blind. It was watchful, armed with a chisel, ensuring that the divine order was maintained. Now turn your gaze to ancient Egypt, where justice was not merely a legal concept, but a cosmic force. The Egyptians revered Ma'at, the divine principle of truth, balance, and moral order. More than just a goddess, she was the very essence of the universe. Pharaohs did not just rule with power, they bore the heavy mantle of upholding Ma'at, ensuring harmony among gods, nature, and society. Unlike the rigid codified laws of Babylon, Egyptian justice danced with flexibility, adapting to each unique case. There was no single immutable legal code here. Instead, judges, often high officials or priests, wielded the divine principle of Ma'at in their interpretations, allowing for decisions that resonated with the context of each situation. Yet this approach meant justice could be as subjective as the shifting sands, often influenced by the social standing of those involved. Court proceedings were not just formal, they were performances where the drama of law unfolded in a way that was as much about spectacle as it was about justice. In the realm of ancient Egypt, justice was a dance between the earthly and the divine, a complex ballet where the stakes were not just the peace of this world, but the tranquility of the next. Depending on the gravity of the offense, one might find themselves pleading their case before the local officials or facing the stern scrutiny of the higher echelons in the royal bureaucracy. Imagine the scene: plaintiffs and defendants, their voices fervent, recounting their tales, each word hanging heavy in the air like the scent of incense in a temple. Essential to these proceedings were the witnesses, their testimonies as crucial as the very air one breathes. The meticulous records of these encounters, etched on papyrus, whisper tales of a civilization far ahead of its time in documentation. For common transgressions like theft or assault, the repercussions were as varied as the Nile's currents. Fines that could drain one's coffers, beatings that left scars both visible and invisible, or the harsh sentence of forced labor. Yet for crimes that shook the very foundations of society, tomb robbery or blasphemy, the punishments were not merely earthly. These acts were seen as affronts to the gods themselves, deserving of the most severe penalties. Execution by fire drowning, or the brutal impalement, and even the posthumous desecration of the body to bar the soul from the afterlife. These were the ultimate expressions of divine retribution. The most iconic symbol of Egyptian justice, however, is the dramatic weighing of the heart against the feather of Ma'at, as depicted in the Book of the Dead. Picture it, the heart heavy with the weight of one's deeds teetering on the scales. If it sank, devoured by Ammit, the monstrous guardian with the head of a crocodile, the body of a lion, and the hippopotamus's girth, the soul faced eternal oblivion. But should the heart balance with the feather, the gates to the eternal paradise, the field of reeds would swing open wide. In Egypt, justice was not merely a legal affair, it was a spiritual journey. The courtroom was not just a place of earthly judgment, but a sacred arena where the divine order of Ma'at was upheld, rewarding those who lived in harmony with truth and punishing those who dared disrupt the cosmic balance. Oh, how different this was from the rigid laws of Babylon. Here justice flowed like the Nile, ebbing and flowing with the moral tides of Ma'at. And as we shift our gaze to ancient Greece, particularly Athens in the 5th and 4th centuries BCE, we see justice transforming yet again, this time into something radical, something that it would echo through the corridors of time. In the heart of Athens, the birthplace of democracy, a unique judicial system was birthed, one that would echo through the annals of legal history. Here, every male citizen was granted the profound honor of not just participating, but shaping the very essence of justice. Imagine the scene: no professional judges, no lawyers. Instead, the fate of disputes from petty theft to the gravest accusations of impiety lay in the hands of juries vast in number, selected by the purest form of chance. These citizens, drawn from the common throng, bore the weighty responsibility of both hearing and deciding with no avenue for appeal. Oh, the drama of it all. The trial swift as the wind would often conclude in a day, each side's argument measured by the relentless drip of the clepsydra, the water clock ensuring fairness in time, if not in talent. The breadth of cases was as wide as the sea, from the mundane squabbles over property to the dire charges of adultery, assault, or even the sacrilege of disrespecting the gods. Consider the fate of Socrates, a man whose questioning spirit led him to the ultimate penalty for allegedly corrupting the youth and defying the divine. Yet justice in Athens was not a matter of written law for all to see. No much was whispered among the literate elite, leaving the common man at the mercy of rhetoric rather than precedent. Here the silver tongue or the purse heavy with coin could sway the scales, a stark reminder that justice often danced to the tune of eloquence and wealth. And what of justice preempted Athenians wielded ostracism, a tool of exile where annually the populace could decide without need for proof that one among them was too potent, too perilous for the city's health. Imagine the power, the fear, the intrigue. Though imperfect, this system laid the groundwork for the modern legal concepts we now hold dear, reminding us of the enduring legacy of those ancient Athenians who dared to dream of a society governed by its people. Let us delve into the heart of ancient Indian jurisprudence, where justice was not merely a civic duty or royal decree, but a collective voyage through the tapestry of existence. Here justice was an early tumultuous dance of legal equality, its echoes still reverberating within the hallowed halls of our contemporary courtrooms. In this land, the concept of justice was interwoven with the intricate fabric of dharma, a term that dances on the edge of translation, whispering of duty, righteousness, and the cosmic law that binds us all. Unlike the stark legal codes of Babylon or the civic trials of Greece, Indian justice was not merely about the binary of right and wrong. Oh no, it was far more profound. It was about preserving the delicate balance of harmony in the cosmos and society and within the soul itself. Dharma was not a static rule. It was fluid shifting with the sands of time, one's age, caste, gender, and life's many stages, making justice a deeply personal and moral journey. The legal tapestry of ancient India was first woven into texts known as the Dharma Shastras, with the illustrious Manusmriti, or Laws of Manu, compiled from the 2nd century BCE to the 3rd century CE, standing as the most renowned. These were not laws as we know them today, but rather they were spiritual and societal compasses guiding legal thought through the centuries. They crafted the very essence of life's legalities, from property rights in inheritance to the sanctity of marriage contracts and the gravity of punishments. Central to this vision was the caste system where Brahmins, the revered priests along with Kshatriyas, the valiant warriors, Vaishyas, the industrious merchants, and Shudras, the diligent laborers. Each navigated under different rules and faced distinct penalties. Imagine the disparity. A Brahmin might be fined or temporarily barred from rituals for an offense, while a Shudra could face corporal punishment or even more severe repercussions for the same transgression. Justice in this system did not wear a blindfold. It was hierarchical, intimately linked to one's birthright. Yet let us not paint this system with a brush of unforgiving severity. Indian justice, in its profound wisdom, recognized the nuances of intent and the redemptive power of repentance. A sinner could mitigate their punishment through acts of penance or charity, and judges were urged to ponder the moral and spiritual condition of those before them. Thus, justice was not merely punitive, but also sought to restore balance to mend the cosmic and societal fabric torn by human error. How can we not be moved by such a vision of justice, where the heart and spirit are as crucial as the act itself? In the grand tapestry of ancient justice, kings often stood as the pinnacle of judicial power. Their decisions shaped not just by earthly counsel, but also by the divine whispers of Brahmins and the wisdom of their ministers. The fusion of celestial law with royal edict was a delicate dance aiming to mirror the cosmic order on earth. When the threads of evidence unraveled or the witnesses faltered, the courts turned to a spectacle of trials by ordeal. Imagine the scene: a hushed crowd, the air thick with tension, as individuals faced the fiery embrace of red-hot iron, the scalding plunge into boiling oil, or the perilous walk through flames. These were not merely tests of endurance, but sacred rituals believed to unveil truth through divine intervention. Such trials, though dramatic, were the last vestiges of justice, not its everyday fare. The essence of justice in ancient India was not solely punitive. It was a profound endeavor to mend the fabric of the universe. It sought to rectify not just legal infractions, but spiritual misalignments, to realign the wayward soul with the path of Dharma. Here, law, morality, and religion were not just intertwined, they were one. Across the ancient landscapes, when legal systems faltered, societies often called upon the divine for resolution. Among the most harrowing methods was the trial by ordeal, a practice that echoed through Babylon, India, and would later resonate in medieval Europe. The principle was stark, yet profound. When human justice failed, let divine justice decide through the crucible of pain. In Babylon, the ordeal might see the accused hurled into the river's embrace. If they floated, buoyed by the god's mercy, innocence was declared. If they sank, their guilt was sealed, albeit inconveniently beyond earthly retribution. The river, a sacred, impartial arbiter, reflected a deep-seated belief in divine oversight. In ancient India, as detailed in the Dharma Shastras, various forms of ordeal were employed. Walking across searing iron plowshares, reaching into cauldrons of boiling oil for coins, or enduring the venomous bite. These were not acts of cruelty, but divine arbitration. Surviving these trials unscathed or with minor wounds was seen as a testament to one's innocence, a sign from the gods themselves. Was it not a testament to the human spirit's resilience, to the belief in a higher justice that such trials were undertaken? Could there be a more poignant reminder of our quest for truth, our yearning for cosmic harmony. Oh, the ancient belief in the divine. How deeply they trusted that the gods would never let the innocent suffer without reason. Though by today's standards such methods might seem barbaric, the trial by ordeal was not solely about physical endurance. Sometimes it was about the sacred oath sworn under the watchful eyes of deities, with the speaker's truth bound by the invocation of divine wrath. Imagine the scene, the trembling hand placed upon a holy relic, the solemn invocation of a god's judgment. To lie under such circumstances was thought to invite immediate divine retribution or eternal punishment in the afterlife. The psychological might of these ordeals was profound. It could shake the guilty to their core, compelling confessions while reinforcing the faithful's trust in a cosmic justice system. Yet this reliance on supernatural intervention also laid bare the vulnerability of human judicial systems. How desperate ancient societies were for something more than mere human judgment. These trials were often a final measure, a desperate attempt to resolve disputes that no earthly wisdom could settle. Despite their harshness, these trials carried a peculiar sense of democracy. Kings and commoners alike could find themselves under the same scrutiny. In a world devoid of forensic science or due process, suffering became the arena where justice was sought, and the gods were expected to play the roles of judge, jury, and executioner. In the land of the Nile, justice did not stem from impartial courts or elected juries, but flowed directly from the divine authority of the pharaoh. As both monarch and living deity, the pharaoh was the living incarnation of Ma'at, the divine principle of truth, balance, and cosmic order. Upholding justice was not merely a political responsibility for him. It was a sacred duty with the power to overrule any verdict, command executions, grant pardons, or alter laws. At a whim, the pharaoh's authority was not justified by human logic, but by divine mandate. To defy him was to throw the very order of the universe into chaos. The harmony of the universe, yet the pharaoh did not govern Egypt in solitude. A vast bureaucratic tapestry stretching from the sun-drenched capital to the quiet, dusty provincial towns supported his reign. This intricate network was woven with officials who wore many hats. They were judges, scribes, and investigators, their actions guided not by rigid laws, but by the fluid principles of Ma'at and the edicts of the king. Imagine the scene in local hamlets. Disputes were resolved by councils of elders or temple priests, their wisdom as ancient as the Nile. But venture into the bustling cities, and one would find grand halls where the scales of justice tipped on matters of property, theft, assault, and inheritance. Here, proceedings were not just heard, but recorded with painstaking detail on papyrus scrolls that whisper to us through the ages, revealing the heartbeat of Egyptian jurisprudence. The courtrooms were alive with the drama of human conflict. Plaintiffs and defendants stood before their judges, their voices echoing in oaths, their stories supported by witnesses, and when possible, tangible evidence. How serious were the Egyptians about justice? False accusations were met with the same severity as the crimes they accused. The accuser could find themselves facing the very punishment they sought for another. Punishments ranged from the mild restitution and fines to the severe flogging, forced labor, or even death. Crimes against sacred spaces, tombs, or the royal estate were particularly heinous, treated with a severity that spoke of their deep reverence for the divine and the pharaoh. Yet there was a heart to Egyptian justice. It leaned towards rehabilitation, offering paths for wrongdoers to atone, especially if their confessions came freely. What set Egyptian justice apart was its unique blend of absolute monarchy and moral expectation. The pharaoh, though wielding power as vast as the desert, was expected to rule with fairness. To his people and his gods, he was not just a ruler to be feared, but a revered guardian of cosmic balance. In this land where divine kings and priestly classes held sway over justice, the pharaoh's role was both supreme and sacred, a testament to the enduring quest for harmony in the universe. The cradle of democracy, where justice transcended the celestial realm and monarchical grip to embrace the collective soul of its people in the hallowed halls of ancient Greece, particularly in the bustling agora of democratic Athens. Justice blossomed as a shared duty among its citizens. No longer the exclusive domain of gods or monarchs, it was now a tapestry woven by the very hands of those it served. Imagine, if you will, the vibrant ecclesia, the beating heart where the citizen assembly gathered pulsating with the lifeblood of democracy. Here, laws were not simply handed down from above, but were crafted, debated, and voted upon by the assembly itself. And alongside this, the Helii, a vast pulsating court, where hundreds of ordinary citizens selected by lottery sat as jurors, their collective wisdom and judgment shaping the course of justice. Was it not a marvel that in Athens, the administration of justice was a spectacle, a public affair where every man could in turn govern and be governed? The absence of judges in the modern sense was replaced by magistrates chosen by lottery or popular vote who orchestrated the proceedings with an impartial hand. Yet the power to decide to affirm or deny rested with the juror citizens over 30, who through their random selection ensured that justice was not swayed by the powerful or the wealthy. Oh, the drama of the courtroom, where rhetoric reigned supreme, where a man's fate hung on the eloquence of his speech, or the persuasive power of a hired orator. Here, justice was not just about law, it was about the art of persuasion, the sway of public emotion, the dance of words that could elevate or condemn. And when threats loomed, or when the state's very fabric felt the strain, special assemblies convened their decisions swift and decisive. Ostracism, a practice where a simple vote could banish a citizen for a decade without trial, served as a testament to the raw power of democracy. No crime needed only the consensus that one's influence was too potent, too dangerous. Thus in Athens, justice was not merely administered. It was lived, breathed, and felt by every citizen, its imperfections a reflection of its humanity, its vibrancy, a testament to the spirit of democracy. The system introduced revolutionary concepts that shook the foundations of justice. Imagine the importance of peer judgment, where every citizen's voice mattered, and open debate became the cornerstone of fairness. The notion that law was a possession of the people, not just the elite, was messy, fraught with emotion, and occasionally unjust. Yet how revolutionary was it? In Greek justice, the courtroom transformed into a theater with the citizenry as both actors and judges. Here, justice wasn't just a legal process. It was a public spectacle, a performance where every individual played a crucial role, momentarily holding the power of decision in their hands. But let's not confine ourselves to the courts of Greece. In ancient India, justice transcended the mere confines of legal proceedings, weaving itself into the very fabric of existence through the principle of karma. Here, every action, every choice carried not just immediate repercussions, but spiritual consequences that echoed through lifetimes. Unlike the civic trials of Greece or the royal edicts of Egypt, Indian justice was about a cosmic ledger, ensuring that no misdeed went unnoticed or unpunished by the universe itself. Karma was no mere legal tool, it was the moral law deeply embedded in Hindu and Buddhist traditions. Good deeds promised future prosperity, while ill actions inevitably led to suffering, even if justice seemed delayed in human terms. Could a thief truly escape? The universe itself would ensure the scales of justice were balanced, reinforcing ethical behavior where human enforcement might fail. Yet ancient India did not solely rely on cosmic justice. The Manusmriti and other Dharma Shastras provided not just legal guidance, but a blueprint for individual conduct outlining duties specific to each caste and societal role. Justice here was nuanced, tailored to the fabric of society, where even kings were bound by dharma, facing not only political but spiritual repercussions for failing in their duties. Enter Buddhism emerging in the 5th century BCCE, which further enriched this karmic view of justice. It boldly rejected caste-based legal inequalities, advocating for universal moral principles like nonviolence, truthfulness, and compassion. While not a legal code in itself, Buddhist ethics profoundly influenced rulers, suggesting that justice was about more than law, it was about the heart of humanity itself. In the heart of the 3rd century BCE, a transformation of profound significance unfolded under the rule of Emperor Ashoka. This ruler, once a fierce conqueror, turned his back on the path of war, choosing instead to guide his empire with the gentle light of Buddhist values. His renowned rock edicts, etched into the very stones of his realm, proclaimed a vision of governance steeped in mercy, tolerance, and an unyielding moral responsibility. Justice in this enlightened era transcended the mere mechanics of trial and punishment. It delved into the depths of the soul, focusing on inner purity, the purity of intention, and the inescapable accountability of one's spirit. Imagine, if you will, a world where one might dodge the king's wrath, yet remain ensnared by the consequences of their own actions. Even a king, should he rule with an iron fist of injustice, would not escape the karmic repercussions in future existences. This understanding of justice, woven with threads of karma, was not just a system imposed from above, but was internalized, a personal reckoning far more daunting than any earthly authority could ever be. From the law courts to the vast cosmos, Indian civilization saw justice not as mere retribution, but as a divine force striving to restore the delicate harmony between the individual society and the universe itself. Millennia have passed since the dawn of Babylon, Egypt, Greece, and India. Yet their legacies and justice systems continue to resonate, shaping our modern conceptions of crime, punishment, and equity. These ancient cultures have bequeathed to us not only the intellectual frameworks, but also the moral and procedural foundations that underpin our legal systems today. Babylon introduced the world to the earliest codified laws advocating for justice that was visible, consistent, and state-enforced. The principle of an eye for an eye still sparks debates, representing both a call for proportionate justice and a warning against the perils of vengeful excess. Egypt, with its divine kingship and moral laws, taught us that justice was not merely social, but cosmic, emphasizing balanced truth and harmony, echoes of which we find in today's restorative justice, where the aim is not solely to punish, but to heal and restore community balance. And Greece, oh Greece, it revolutionized justice by intertwining it with the very essence of citizenship and participation, making it not just a matter of law, but of civic duty. Here, the trial was not merely a legal proceeding, but a communal event, a testament to the democratic spirit, where every voice had the potential to influence the scales of justice. The seeds of legal systems sown in the fertile soil of ancient Athens have blossomed into the robust frameworks of today. Imagine the thrill of public debate, the raw power of a jury, and the solemn duty of peer judgment. This democratic dance, though often flawed and exclusionary, has shaped the very essence of justice. Athens whispered to us that the public's voice matters, that accountability is the cornerstone of law. Oh, but let us not forget the profound contributions from the cradle of civilization, India. Here, justice wasn't just a matter of law, but of soul. Dharma and karma wove a moral tapestry into the legal fabric, urging each individual towards personal accountability and self-regulation. Even now, Indian law stands as a testament to this fusion, where British legal structures dance a complex tango with the ancient customs and religious laws. This blend, though imperfect, speaks volumes of the enduring power of tradition. These ancient systems, while often unjust, classist, and patriarchal, raise questions that echo through time. Who, oh who, defines justice? Is it the divine decree, the consensus of the civic body, or an immutable moral truth? Should law be a blanket of equality or tailored to one social role? How do we reconcile punishment with a tender touch of mercy? Modern law, more humane and structured, still carries the genetic imprint of these early systems. We still etch our laws into the stone of our societies, expecting them to maintain order. In courts and assemblies, in the sacred halls of thought, we debate justice. We grapple with the eternal struggle between power and fairness, law and morality, crime and consequence. Our quest for justice, it seems, is as old as civilization itself, ever evolving, ever seeking. And now, as we close this journey through time, let me extend my heartfelt thanks to you, dear viewer. Your engagement fuels our passion to explore these timeless questions. Please comment below with your thoughts, like this video, to show your support, share it to spread the conversation. And if you haven't already, subscribe to join us on this fascinating journey through the annals of justice. Together, let's continue to unravel the complexities of law and morality.